Lena woke up earlier than usual that morning, the faint sound of rain tapping against the window. Her Aunt Rosa was sitting at the edge of the bed holding her head in her hands. She looked pale and weak, clearly unwell. Lena quickly walked over and asked what was wrong. Rosa smiled faintly and said it was just the flu, but Lena could see she was struggling to even sit up. Rosa worked as a cleaner at a luxury hotel in the city, and missing a shift was something she hated. She'd always say, "Every day matters when you're working for honest money." But that morning Rosa admitted she couldn't go. She coughed and said softly, "Lena, can you do me a favor? Just for today? Can you cover my shift?" Lena hesitated. She had never worked in a hotel before. She had just finished her degree a few months ago and was still searching for a proper job. The idea of cleaning hotel rooms made her nervous, not because of the work, but because she didn't want to mess things up. But when she saw how weak her aunt looked, she didn't think twice. "Of course, Aunt Rosa," she said. "Tell me what to do." Rosa gave her detailed instructions, where the staff entrance was, who to talk to, and how to wear the uniform properly. She even handed Lena her staff ID and whispered, "Don't talk too much. Just do your job quietly." Lena nodded, took a deep breath, and left the house with an umbrella in one hand and a small bag in the other. The hotel stood tall in the middle of the city, shining even under the gray clouds. Lena felt small as she walked through the staff entrance. Inside, she met the shift supervisor, a strict-looking woman who didn't smile much. The woman looked at Rosa's ID, then at Lena. "You're her niece?" she asked. Lena nodded quickly. "All right. You'll be in the upper floors today. Don't touch the guests' personal items and be quick. We're short on staff," the woman said before walking away. Lena put on the light blue uniform, tied her hair neatly, and looked at herself in the mirror. She almost didn't recognize the reflection. The uniform made her feel like someone else, someone who worked hard for every penny just like her aunt. She pushed the cleaning cart toward the elevator, her heart beating faster than usual. The first few rooms went smoothly. She changed the sheets, wiped mirrors, arranged towels neatly, and vacuumed the carpets. Each room had its own smell, perfume, food, flowers, or sometimes just the faint scent of loneliness. She thought about how many stories each room could tell. Some guests probably came for vacations, some for business, and others maybe just to escape their lives for a while. After 2 hours, she was getting into the rhythm of the work. The soft sound of the vacuum cleaner and the smell of soap became part of the background. She was actually starting to enjoy how peaceful it felt to bring order to a messy room. She thought of her aunt and realized how much effort she must put in every day. Then, as she pushed her cart down the hallway, she saw a door slightly open. The list said that room number 706 was empty and ready for cleaning. She knocked gently and called out, "Housekeeping." There was no answer. She waited a few seconds, then pushed the door open slowly. The room was large and filled with sunlight. It was one of the premium suites, she could tell right away. Everything looked beautiful. Soft curtains, expensive luggage, a tray with half-eaten breakfast on the table, and a view of the city skyline through the wide windows. She thought maybe the guest had checked out but left the room messy. She decided to clean quickly before moving to the next one. Lena rolled up her sleeves and started picking up things, humming softly to herself. She carefully placed the plates on the trolley, arranged the pillows, and began dusting the glass table near the balcony. She was reaching for a towel when suddenly she heard a voice behind her. "Excuse me, what are you doing?" Lena froze. She turned around quickly and saw a man standing near the balcony. He looked to be in his early 30s, dressed in casual clothes, holding a cup of coffee. His expression wasn't angry, just curious. Her heart skipped a beat. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said quickly. "I thought this room was empty," the list said. The man raised his hand slightly, stopping her mid-sentence. "It's fine," he said with a small smile. "You just startled me, that's all." Lena's face turned red. She apologized again, explaining that it was her first day and she was only helping her aunt. He listened, sipping his coffee. There was something calm about him, like he was used to seeing people panic around him but didn't mind it. "So, you're not usually working here?" he asked casually. She shook her head. "No, my aunt works here. She's sick today, so I'm covering for her." He nodded slowly, studying her for a moment. "That's kind of you," he said. "Most people wouldn't do that." Lena smiled awkwardly, unsure what to say. She wanted to leave but didn't want to seem rude. "I should go. Sorry for disturbing you again." He gave a polite nod. "No problem." Have a good day. She quickly pushed the card out of the room, her hands trembling slightly. The whole encounter replayed in her head. She felt embarrassed but also strangely curious about the man. There was something about his calmness that stayed with her. For the rest of the day, she kept working quietly, trying not to think about it. Every time she passed that floor again, her heart picked up speed. She didn't see him again, but his voice still echoed in her ears. By the time her shift ended, she was exhausted. Her back hurt, her arms ached, but there was a sense of pride in her chest. She had done something she'd never done before. When she reached home, her aunt was resting on the couch wrapped in a blanket. "How did it go?" Rosa asked weakly. Lena smiled. "Tiring, but not bad. I think I understand your work better now." "It's harder than I thought." Rosa laughed softly. "It's honest work. That's what matters." "Did anyone give you trouble?" Lena hesitated for a moment, thinking about the man in room 706, then shook her head. "No, everyone was nice." Rosa nodded and closed her eyes, relieved. Lena went to her room, changed into comfortable clothes, and lay down. Her mind kept drifting back to the hotel, to the quiet hallways, and that moment when the stranger caught her off guard. She wondered who he really was. There was something refined about the way he spoke. Something that didn't match the usual hotel guests she had seen that day. She didn't know that the small misunderstanding, the one that had made her blush with embarrassment, was only the beginning of something much bigger. Something that would soon change her life in ways she couldn't have imagined. The next morning, Lena helped her aunt with breakfast before leaving for an interview she had scheduled for a small office job. While waiting for the bus, she looked across the city skyline and thought of the hotel again. She remembered the tall windows, the fresh smell of flowers, and the calm smile of the man she had accidentally met. For a brief second, she wondered if she'd ever see him again. Then she shook her head and laughed quietly at herself. "Of course not," she whispered. That was just a one-time thing. But fate, as it often does, had a different plan waiting for her. A plan that started with one simple act of kindness covering her aunt's shift on a rainy morning. The following week went by quickly for Lena. She focused on helping her aunt recover and sending out job applications. Every day she hoped for a call or even a message from any company that had seen her resume. But nothing came. Still, she stayed positive, helping around the house and spending time with Rosa, who was finally getting her strength back. One evening, as they were having dinner, Rosa mentioned she had to return to work the next morning. Lena felt relieved that her aunt was better, but part of her also felt something strange. She missed the hotel, the quiet hallways, the soft hum of the elevator, and maybe even that unexpected meeting in room 706. She shook off the thought quickly and told herself it was nothing. Still, she couldn't forget the look on that man's face when she'd entered the room. Calm, polite, but somehow curious. The next morning, Rosa left early for her shift. Lena stayed home and spent hours scrolling through job listings online. Most required experience she didn't have, and the rest didn't pay enough to cover basic expenses. She sighed and decided to take a short walk to clear her mind. The weather was bright and warm, the city buzzing with life. She stopped near a small cafe, ordered tea, and sat by the window watching people go by. A group of business people walked past the window, laughing about something. They looked so confident, dressed neatly, talking like the world belonged to them. For a moment, Lena wondered if she'd ever fit into a world like that. She didn't envy them. She just wished she had a clear direction. She wanted to work hard, earn her place, and make her aunt proud. Later that day, her phone rang. It was Rosa. "Lena," she said breathlessly, "the manager wants to see you." "Me? Why?" Lena asked, surprised. "I don't know," Rosa replied. "He said something about a guest asking for you." "Do you remember anyone from last week?" Lena froze for a second. Her mind immediately went to that man, the one from room 706. "I think I do," she said quietly. "What should I do?" "Come to the hotel," Rosa said. "Now." Lena quickly got dressed and took the bus downtown. Her hands were sweating as she looked out the window, trying to calm herself. Maybe it was just a mistake. Maybe someone had mixed up names. But deep down, she felt this had something to do with that moment in the suite. When she arrived, the same supervisor from last week greeted her. "Follow me," she said shortly, walking briskly toward the lobby. Lena felt out of place in her simple clothes, surrounded by people in suits and expensive dresses. The lobby gleamed under bright lights, the scent of flowers filling the air. At the far corner near the lounge, the supervisor stopped. A tall man was sitting on one of the couches looking at his phone. When he looked up, Lena recognized him immediately. It was him, the man from room 706. Her heart started beating faster. The supervisor turned to Lena. "This guest asked to meet you. I'll leave you two to talk." Then she walked away. The man stood up and smiled politely. "I hope I didn't scare you by asking you to come here," he said. "Please sit." Lena sat down carefully, unsure what to expect. "I was surprised," she admitted. "I didn't think you'd even remember me," he chuckled softly. "You don't forget someone who cleans your room while you're still in it," he said, and they both laughed a little. The tension faded slightly. He then continued, "I realized after you left that day that I never got your name." "Lena," she said quietly. "My name's Lena." "That's a nice name," he said. "I'm Adrian," she nodded, trying to stay composed. He didn't act like the kind of man who looked down on others. His voice was calm and kind. Still, she couldn't help but wonder why he'd called her back. "I hope I didn't cause any trouble for you," she said. "My aunt works here. I only came that day because she was sick." He smiled. "I know, your manager told me. That's actually what made me want to talk to you." Lena looked at him, puzzled. "Why?" "Because," he said slowly, "most people your age wouldn't step in to do that kind of work for someone else. You didn't have to, but you did it anyway. That says a lot about you." Lena felt her cheeks warm. "It was nothing," she said. "She's family, and I couldn't let her lose a day's pay." He nodded thoughtfully, then asked, "Are you working anywhere right now?" She shook her head. "Not yet. I've been applying everywhere, but it's been hard. I don't have much experience." He leaned back in his seat. "Experience comes with time. What matters is how you handle opportunities when they come." There was a brief silence. Lena looked around the lobby at people checking in and staff moving quickly, and wondered why she was even sitting there, talking to a man like him. He didn't seem like someone who had time for small talk with strangers. After a moment, Adrian said, "I own a few companies in the city. I'm always looking for people who work with heart." "You reminded me of that." Lena's eyes widened slightly. "You own companies?" He nodded casually, like it wasn't a big deal. "Mostly hotels and some businesses related to travel. This hotel is one of them." Lena blinked in surprise. "You mean this is your hotel?" He smiled at her reaction. "One of them, yes. I come here sometimes to check things personally." She sat back, feeling suddenly shy. "Oh, I didn't know." "I'm sorry for the way I acted that day." He waved his hand lightly. "Don't be. You were honest and polite. I liked that." They spoke for a few more minutes, mostly about her studies and what kind of job she was looking for. Adrian listened carefully, asking thoughtful questions. He didn't make her feel small or uncomfortable. Instead, he made her feel seen, like her words mattered. Finally, he said, "I'd like to help you if that's okay. Not out of pity, but because I think you have potential. Here's my card. If you're interested, call me in a few days. There might be something you can do in my company." Lena looked at the card, unsure how to react. It had his full name, company logo, and number printed neatly in gold letters. She didn't know what to say. "Thank you," she said finally. "That's very kind of you," he smiled again. "You don't have to decide now. Just think about it. Sometimes life gives us chances in unexpected ways." Lena stood up, thanked him again, and left the lobby. Her legs felt light, almost shaky, as she walked out of the hotel. The city felt different that day, brighter, louder, more alive. She held the card tightly in her hand, staring at it every few steps. When she got home, Rosa was waiting at the door. "Well?" she asked eagerly. "What happened?" Lena handed her the card. "He's not just a guest, Aunt Rosa. He owns the hotel." Rosa's eyes widened. "What, are you sure?" Lena nodded. "He said he wants to help me find a job. I don't know if he meant it or was just being polite." Rosa sat down slowly, still shocked. "Sometimes people surprise you, Lena. Maybe he saw something good in you." Lena smiled faintly. "Maybe. Or maybe it's just a strange coincidence." That night, she placed the card on her desk and stared at it for a long time. The name Adrian stood out in gold. She thought about his calm voice and kind expression. She didn't want to get her hopes up, but something inside her whispered that this meeting wasn't ordinary. The next few days passed quietly. Lena didn't call. She kept the card in her notebook, checking it every now and then but convincing herself not to expect anything. She continued helping her aunt doing chores and applying for jobs online. Then on the fourth day, she got a message on her phone. It was from an unknown number. The message read, "Hi Lena, this is Adrian. Just checking if you've thought about our conversation. No pressure, just wanted to know how you're doing." Her heart skipped a beat. She read the message twice, then smiled to herself. It felt strange, like a small spark of hope lighting up her quiet life. She typed a reply carefully. "Thank you for asking. I'm doing well. Still thinking about your offer." He replied almost instantly, "Take your time. But remember, good opportunities don't wait forever." Lena laughed softly. She didn't know where this was leading, but for the first time in a long while, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Possibility. The kind that made her believe maybe, just maybe, her life was about to change. Days turned into weeks, and Lena's life started to move quietly again. She still hadn't called Adrian, though his message kept echoing in her mind. She wasn't sure if she was ready to step into a world so different from hers. What if she made a mistake? What if she didn't belong? Those thoughts followed her every day, yet deep down she knew she couldn't ignore the chance forever. One afternoon, as she was helping her aunt fold laundry, Rosa noticed how distracted she looked. "You're thinking about that man again, aren't you?" she asked with a teasing smile. Lena laughed nervously. "No, I was just wondering if I should call him."
"He said there might be a job." Rosa put the clothes aside and looked at her.
"You should, Lena. Sometimes life gives you chances only once. You never know what could happen." Lena nodded. She knew her aunt was right. That evening, she sat by her small desk, took out the card Adrian had given her and stared at it for a long time. The golden letters gleamed under the dim light. She took a deep breath and finally dialed the number. The phone rang only once before she heard his familiar voice. "Lena, I was hoping you'd call." Her heart skipped a beat. "Yes, I thought about what you said. You mentioned a job." "I did," he replied. "Can you come by my office tomorrow morning? I'd like to introduce you to my team." "Sure," she said, trying to sound calm even though her hands were shaking. "Where should I go?" He gave her the address and told her to ask for him at the reception. His tone was friendly, reassuring, and that helped ease her nerves a little. After they hung up, Lena sat quietly for a moment. She couldn't believe it was actually happening. The next morning, she woke up before sunrise. She picked out her best outfit, a simple white blouse and dark trousers. Rosa helped her iron the blouse and gave her a few encouraging words. "Just be yourself," she said. "You don't have to pretend to be anyone else." Lena smiled and hugged her aunt before leaving for the bus. The city looked different that morning, full of possibility. When she arrived at the tall glass building Adrian had mentioned, she felt her stomach twist with nerves. The place looked modern and busy, with people rushing in and out, holding laptops and coffee cups. At the front desk, she told the receptionist she was there to meet Adrian. The woman nodded and made a quick call before smiling. "He's expecting you. Please take the elevator to the 10th floor." As Lena stepped into the elevator, she could feel her pulse racing. She'd never been inside a building like this before. When the doors opened, she found herself in a bright, open office filled with plants, large windows, and friendly chatter. Adrian was waiting near the entrance, wearing a light gray suit and the same calm expression she remembered. "Lena, you made it," he said warmly. "I'm glad you came," she smiled nervously. "Thank you for inviting me." He led her to a small conference room and offered her some water. "I wanted you to meet a few people," he said. "We're looking for someone to help with administrative tasks, organizing files, scheduling, handling emails, that sort of thing. It's not glamorous, but it's a good place to start." Lena's eyes brightened. "That sounds perfect," he smiled. "Good. I'll have someone show you around." For the next half hour, one of his assistants walked her through the office, explaining the workflow and introducing her to the staff. Everyone was kind and welcoming. She noticed that Adrian treated everyone with respect. He greeted even the janitors and security guards with a smile. It surprised her how humble he was, considering he owned so much. When the tour ended, Adrian called her back to his office. "So," he said, leaning back in his chair, "do you think you'd like to work here?" Lena nodded without hesitation. "Yes, I'd love to." "Then it's settled," he said, smiling. "You can start next week." I'll have HR handle the paperwork. Lena could hardly contain her excitement. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity. He looked at her kindly. You earned it, Lena. You didn't wait for luck, you helped your aunt when she needed you, and that says more than any resume ever could. As she left the building, she felt like she was walking on air. She called her aunt right away to tell her the news. Rosa was overjoyed. See? I told you good things happen to good people, she said proudly. The next week, Lena started her new job. The first few days were challenging, learning how to manage schedules, filing systems, and answering calls politely. But she worked hard and never complained. The office staff quickly grew fond of her because she was always kind and willing to help. Even when she made small mistakes, she admitted them and learned fast. Adrian often passed by her desk, offering small words of encouragement. You're doing great, he would say with a smile, and those words always lifted her spirits. She admired how calm he was under pressure, how he treated his employees like equals rather than subordinates. One afternoon, the team was preparing for a big presentation. Everyone was running around, printing documents, setting up the projector, and arranging the meeting room. Lena stayed late to help organize the folders and refreshments. When everyone finally left for the night, Adrian noticed she was still there. You should go home, Lena, he said, standing at the doorway. I will, she replied, stacking papers neatly. I just want to make sure everything's ready for tomorrow. He watched her for a moment and smiled. You remind me of how I started, he said quietly. Working late, making sure every little thing was perfect. She looked up, curious. You worked like this too? He nodded. I started as an intern at a small company. I didn't have much, but I wanted to prove myself. The hard work pays off, believe me. Lena smiled. That gives me hope. He chuckled softly. Hope is important, but effort is what turns it into success. She liked that thought. It made her realize that even successful people started small. Everyone had a beginning. Over the next few weeks, Lena's confidence grew. She began managing small projects, helping organize meetings, and even assisting with reports. Adrian noticed her dedication and often praised her in front of others, which made her feel proud but also humbled. Despite his busy schedule, he sometimes invited her for coffee during breaks. They would sit by the window overlooking the city, talking about life, dreams, and lessons they had learned along the way. Lena found those moments special because Adrian never made her feel like she didn't belong. He asked for her opinions, listened genuinely, and even laughed at her little jokes. But not everyone in the office viewed their growing friendship positively. A few coworkers started whispering when Lena passed by. Some said she was only getting attention because Adrian liked her. Others said she didn't deserve her position because she had no experience. Lena heard bits of gossip here and there, and though it hurt, she tried to ignore it. One day, she stayed late again to finish a report. As she was leaving, she overheard two employees talking near the break room. She's lucky, one said. Most of us worked for years to get noticed, and she gets a personal meeting with the boss on her first week. Yeah, the other replied. Maybe luck has a nice smile. Lena quietly walked past them, pretending not to hear. But her heart sank. That night, she told her aunt what had happened. Rosa listened carefully, then said, Don't let their words bother you. People talk when they see someone doing well. Just stay kind and keep working hard. Lena nodded. She knew her aunt was right. The next morning, she went to work with her head held high. She focused on her tasks, smiled at everyone, and continued giving her best. Adrian noticed her quiet determination. One afternoon, after a successful meeting, he called her into his office. You've been doing an excellent job, he said. I can see how much effort you put in. Don't let anyone make you doubt yourself. She was surprised. You know about the gossip? He nodded slightly. In every workplace, there will always be people who misunderstand. But I judge people by their actions, not by rumors. You've earned my respect. Lena felt a wave of relief and gratitude. Thank you, she said softly. That means a lot. As weeks passed, Lena's role became more stable. She felt happy every morning going to work, knowing she was finally building something of her own. Her aunt couldn't stop smiling whenever Lena shared stories about her day. But even as things seemed perfect, fate had more surprises waiting. One day, Adrian received an urgent business call that required him to travel abroad for a few weeks. Before leaving, he asked Lena to take care of certain tasks in his absence. I trust you, he said with a reassuring smile. You're capable. Lena promised she wouldn't let him down. Watching him leave that evening, she realized how much his presence had come to mean to her, not just as a boss, but as someone who had seen potential in her when she couldn't see it herself. She didn't know it yet, but his absence was about to bring challenges she'd never faced before, tests that would reveal just how strong and determined she really was. The next morning, Lena woke up early, even though she hadn't slept well. Her mind was still spinning from the previous day. She kept thinking about how the hotel guest had asked to meet her again. It felt unreal. She wasn't used to people like him even noticing someone like her. She had only come to help her aunt, and somehow she had ended up in the middle of a misunderstanding that still didn't make sense. She reached for her phone and stared at the time. It was too early to be awake, but her thoughts wouldn't rest. She made some tea, trying to calm herself. Her aunt, who was feeling much better now, noticed her sitting quietly at the table. "You're up early," her aunt said softly, pouring herself a cup of tea. "Did something happen at the hotel yesterday?" Lena hesitated, unsure how to explain it without making it sound strange. "Nothing bad," she said after a pause. "I just met someone important, I guess. He was staying at the hotel." Her aunt raised an eyebrow. "Important?" she repeated. "Like how?" Lena smiled faintly. "He's a businessman. A very successful one. He thought I was a guest at first, not a cleaner. It was all a mistake." Her aunt laughed softly. "Maybe that's a good thing. Sometimes people see more in us than we see in ourselves." Those words stayed in Lena's mind. All day she thought about what her aunt said. Maybe the man had simply seen her differently because she didn't act nervous around him. Maybe he saw something she didn't realize she had. That evening, she decided to go back to the hotel to return the cleaning uniform and pick up her aunt's pay envelope. The same hotel manager who had spoken to her the day before smiled when he saw her. "You again," he said. "Your aunt will be glad you helped her. You did a good job." As Lena thanked him, she noticed the same man from before sitting in the lounge area, reading something on his tablet. He looked up for a moment and caught her eye. He smiled, and for some reason, her heart started beating faster. He stood and walked over. "Back again?" he asked kindly. "I came to return my aunt's things," she said, trying to sound calm. He nodded, still smiling. "I was hoping I'd see you again. I never got to thank you properly for not getting upset when I confused you with a guest." Lena gave a small laugh. "I should be the one apologizing. I shouldn't have been in that room at all." "Then we're even," he said lightly. "But since we've already had a strange introduction, how about starting over? Would you join me for coffee downstairs?" Lena blinked, caught off guard. She didn't expect that. I don't know if that's a good idea," she said quickly. "I'm not really dressed for that kind of thing." He looked at her outfit, simple but clean, and said, "You look perfectly fine. Come on, just a few minutes. I promise I don't bite." Something about his tone made her relax. She finally nodded. "All right, but just for a little while." They sat in the hotel cafe, a quiet place with soft music and warm lights. Lena ordered tea while he had coffee. At first, she didn't know what to say. She wasn't used to talking with people like him, but he made it easy. He asked about her studies, her family, and her dreams. His questions weren't nosy. They were thoughtful, as if he genuinely wanted to know who she was. She told him she had recently finished school but hadn't found work yet. She wanted to find something stable so she could help her aunt and maybe save for more education later. He listened carefully, nodding now and then, his eyes steady but kind. "You remind me of myself years ago," he said after a moment. "I started from almost nothing. I worked in a restaurant kitchen while studying. Back then, I didn't even have a place of my own. I slept in the back of the shop sometimes." Lena looked surprised. But now you own companies. How did you do it?" He smiled slightly. "By working hard and not giving up, even when things looked impossible. I met good people along the way who believed in me. I think you have that same spark." She blushed, looking down at her cup. "I don't know about that." "I do," he said quietly. "You have confidence without arrogance. You speak with honesty. That's rare." They talked for a long time. He shared stories from his travels and business struggles, but never in a showy way. Lena found herself laughing more than she expected. The tension she had felt before slowly disappeared. For the first time in a while, she felt seen. Not as a cleaner, not as someone lost between jobs, but as a person with potential. When it was time to leave, she stood up, thanking him for the tea. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small card. "If you ever need advice or just want to talk about career options, call me," he said. "Don't think of it as a favor. Think of it as a door you can choose to open when you're ready." Lena accepted the card, though she wasn't sure she'd ever use it. "Thank you," she said sincerely. "That means a lot." He nodded and smiled once more. "Take care of your aunt. And take care of yourself, too." That night, as Lena walked home, she kept looking at the card in her hand. It had his name and company logo printed neatly in silver letters. The city lights reflected off it, making it sparkle faintly. She slipped it into her bag, unsure why she felt both nervous and hopeful at the same time. Over the next few days, she tried to return to her normal routine. She helped her aunt, applied for a few jobs, and tried not to think too much about the man from the hotel. But every time she passed the hotel or saw someone dressed in a suit, she thought of him again. Her aunt noticed the change. "You've been smiling to yourself a lot lately," she teased one morning. "Is there something you want to tell me?" Lena laughed, shaking her head. "It's nothing like that. I just met someone who made me think about my life differently, that's all." Her aunt nodded knowingly. "Sometimes people cross our paths for a reason. They remind us of who we can be." Those words stayed with Lena. That evening she sat by her window looking out at the city lights. For the first time in months, she didn't feel stuck. She realized that maybe opportunities didn't always come from job listings or interviews. Sometimes they appeared in unexpected moments, like cleaning the wrong hotel room. A week later, she received an email from one of the offices she had applied to. They wanted her to come in for an interview. She was thrilled but nervous. She spent hours preparing, choosing her outfit carefully and practicing how to speak with confidence. The day of the interview arrived, and she left home early to make sure she wouldn't be late. The office building was tall and modern, not far from the hotel where she had met the businessman. As she sat in the waiting area, she looked around, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. During the interview, she answered questions honestly and politely. The manager seemed impressed with her attitude and thanked her for coming. As she walked out, she felt lighter, even though she didn't know yet if she had gotten the job. That evening, as she returned home, she thought again about the card in her bag. She hadn't called the businessman, but maybe someday she would. Maybe it wasn't about asking for help, but about learning to believe that she deserved to be in better places. Before going to bed, she told her aunt about the interview. Her aunt hugged her and said, "No matter what happens, I'm proud of you. You've already come so far." Lena smiled. "I just want to make something of myself. I don't need to be rich or famous. I just want to do something meaningful." Her aunt looked at her lovingly. "And you will. I can feel it." That night, Lena dreamed of the hotel again. The shining floors, the quiet halls, and the man who had seen something in her that she hadn't seen in herself. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure. Life had a way of surprising her when she least expected it. In the days that followed, she waited to hear back from the job she had interviewed for. Each morning she checked her email, hoping for good news. She didn't realize that something even bigger was waiting just around the corner, something that would change her life again in a way she couldn't imagine. A few days passed and Lena tried to stay patient. Every morning she checked her phone, hoping for an email or a call from the company she had interviewed with. Her aunt noticed how restless she had become. Sometimes Lena would sit by the window, staring outside as if waiting for something to happen. She didn't say it aloud, but deep down, she was also wondering if the man from the hotel would ever call. She told herself not to expect anything, yet her mind often wandered back to that moment at the cafe and the kindness in his eyes. One afternoon, while Lena was helping her aunt fold laundry, her phone rang. She quickly picked it up, her heart skipping a beat when she saw an unfamiliar number. She stepped outside to answer. A calm male voice greeted her. It was the same man from the hotel. For a moment, she couldn't speak. He chuckled softly. "I hope I'm not disturbing you," he said. "You mentioned you were looking for work. I remember you said you studied management, right?" "Yes," Lena replied, still surprised. "I've been applying to several places, actually." "That's good," he said. "Listen, one of our offices is opening a new branch. There's an entry-level position available. I think you'd be a good fit. Would you be interested?" Lena froze. She didn't expect this at all. "Are you serious?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. He laughed. "Of course. I wouldn't be calling otherwise. If you're free tomorrow morning, come to our office. I'll ask the manager to meet you. The address is on the card I gave you." After thanking him several times, Lena ended the call. She stood there for a moment, the phone still in her hand, as if afraid the moment would fade if she moved. Her aunt came outside, curious. "Who was that?" Lena's face lit up. It was him, the man from the hotel. He just offered me an interview at one of his offices. Her aunt's eyes widened. "That's wonderful, see? I told you sometimes blessings come in strange ways." That night, Lena laid out her clothes carefully, polished her shoes, and practiced her answers in front of the mirror. She didn't want to get her hopes too high, but she wanted to give it her best. Before sleeping, she whispered a small prayer, thanking life for this unexpected chance. The next morning, she left home early. The company's office was in a tall glass building downtown. As she entered, the receptionist greeted her warmly and asked her to wait. Soon, a man in a suit came to escort her to the interview room. The atmosphere felt professional but welcoming. She answered each question honestly, just as she always did, and the manager seemed impressed by her sincerity and willingness to learn. At the end of the interview, he smiled and said, "You seem like someone who takes her responsibilities seriously. We value that here. We'll be in touch very soon." Lena thanked him and left the office, her heart full of hope. She couldn't help smiling as she walked outside, breathing in the cool air. She felt proud, not because of who she had met, but because she had faced everything with courage and grace. 3 days later, she received the call she had been waiting for. She got the job. Her aunt cried tears of joy when she heard the news. Lena hugged her tightly, promising that she would keep working hard no matter what. "You've always helped me," she told her aunt. "Now it's my turn to help you rest." Her first day at the new job felt like a dream. She was nervous, of course, but everyone was kind and supportive. The office was bright and filled with people who seemed genuinely motivated. She was assigned to assist in the administrative department, managing schedules and handling client calls. Though the work was new to her, she learned quickly. A few hours into her first day, she received a message that someone wanted to meet her in the conference room. When she entered, she saw the familiar face of the man who had given her the chance. He greeted her with a smile. "Welcome to the team," he said warmly. Lena couldn't stop smiling. "Thank you for believing in me," she said quietly. He waved his hand lightly. "You earned this. I just opened the door. You walked through it. Remember that." They spoke for a few minutes about her role and future goals. He advised her to focus on learning everything she could, to be patient and to keep the same attitude that had impressed him at the hotel. As he left, Lena realized how different this meeting felt. She wasn't just a stranger anymore. She was part of something bigger. Days turned into weeks, and Lena quickly adapted to her new life. She arrived early every morning, greeted everyone with kindness, and did her best in every task. Her colleagues liked her positive spirit, and her manager often praised her dedication. Even when things got stressful, Lena stayed calm and helpful. She never forgot where she had started. Sometimes, when she stayed late to finish work, she would glance out the office window and remember the hotel's shining floors, the cleaning cart, and that one moment that changed everything. Life had taken her from scrubbing floors to sitting at a desk in a bright office, and she had earned every bit of it. One evening, as she was packing up to leave, she saw the businessman again. He had come by to check on a project. When he noticed her, he smiled. "Still working hard, I see." She laughed softly. "Trying to. There's a lot to learn." "That's the spirit," he said. "You're doing well. I've heard good things about you." His words filled her with quiet pride. "Thank you. I just don't want to disappoint anyone." "You won't," he replied. "You're already doing more than you realize. Just stay true to yourself." After he left, Lena sat for a moment thinking about everything that had happened in such a short time. A few months ago, she had been worried about finding work. Now she was part of a company that valued her. It wasn't luck. It was the result of small acts of kindness and courage that led her to this point. As time went on, Lena continued to grow in her role. Her aunt's health improved, and she no longer had to work long hours.